Welcome to Parnell Park. It is the Go Ahead Dublin Senior Football Championship quarter-finals. Already we know the identity of two semi-finalists, Kilmacud Crokes and Nafina booking their place yesterday. Who is going to book their place today? Coming up at 2:15, it's Ballinteer St John's against Ballyboden St Endas. Then later on at 4, Castleknock take on Thomas Davis. We will have the draw, by the way, for the semi-finals after the second game. The draw for both the Senior 1 and Senior 2 competitions. Coleman Goggins, before you think about this as an analyst, think about it as a man who played for Ballinteer for many, many years. How does it feel to be back at this stage?
It's great for the club. They've probably struggled to get out of group stages after the last number of years. The last time Ballinteer met Ballyboden at the quarter-final stage was 2003. I was involved on the day where we managed to get a result. So I know that they travel maybe as underdogs, but there's great expectation, I'd say, around the club that there's a young group coming together here, starting to maybe make inroads into where the bigger teams are at in terms of their successes around championships. So I think the club approached this game very positively. Definitely have some young guys with lots of pace. Up front is probably where the Ballinteer will be asked the questions: can they get enough scores to really get at Ballyboden? The last day out here, Ballyboden, after only 45 minutes, had only 2-6 on the board, and it was against Ballymun, but then managed to find goals out of nowhere. So there is opportunity if they can get scores, but it's a huge opportunity for the club. But needless to say, you have a Ballyboden side in front of you who also are eyeing a semi-final berth as well and be keen to try and win a spot there.
What about Ballyboden? People might think, well, they're very experienced, they won it in 2019, they are perennial contenders for the Dublin Championship, but actually there is an awful lot of change in that squad.
Yeah, and that was probably one of the things earlier in the championship where it looked like it was still the same guys that they were banking on to try and get results for them. There's a couple of people out with injuries. You've still got some experience on the bench in Michael Darmacaulay, Conal Keeney. But then across the forward line is really where they have that impact. They've got real power, real pace. They know how to cut through and get scores, as we've seen against Ballymun. There's probably opportunity for Ballinteer against the Ballyboden full back line, and that's not making light of the challenge that's in front of them. Harry Donaghy at wing back is a guy who didn't start in the earlier rounds, then came into the team. He's a real promising talent. So they have lots of quality. They're very experienced. They're very physical. They've certainly done their conditioning over the last number of years, so you're going to feel hit when it happens. So Ballinteer probably have that. We'll have to get into the game very quickly and not allow Ballyboden to dominate on the physical side of things, and just try and match them in the early stages, first 10 or 15 minutes, and not let the game get away from them, and then see if they can start to poke a few holes. But they're very strong around the middle of the field, very lively in the inside forward line, particularly with the likes of Warren Egan, new guy coming through, and Ryan O'Dwyer, but he's shown at under 20 level here in Dublin where he won an A championship at Ballyboden. He has the goods, and there's good stock there, and that his father played football many years ago and was a good operator too. So they have the scoring ability maybe above what Ballinteer have potentially, so it'll be interesting to see how Ballinteer map out to try and curtail that.
If the team starts as named, it means Ballyboden will have used 25 players throughout the championship alone. That's not the league and championship, that is just the championship. James Holland is out with a hamstring injury. Robbie McDade emigrated, and I think he might have had an injury. Anyway, Aaron Waters has emigrated. Ryan Basquel is out injured. Those are big losses.
They are big names, like Robbie McDade's power in terms of driving from the half-back line. And Ryan Basquel has this, obviously his innate ability with his brother to just connect with him and get scores. They've bailed out Ballyboden so many times before, so he's a big loss, certainly Ryan Basquel. He was very lively in the rounds of the championship, so again, a huge loss up front for them in terms of that attacking ability. But then I mentioned some of the guys that are there. They still have experience in the likes of Ross McGarry. I'm not sure if he'll stay out on the 40 line. He's named at centre forward, but there's definitely scope within their forward line to get big scores, and that's where the intriguing battle is. Can Ballinteer get matchups right and just start asking a couple of questions early doors?
Ballinteer in the what I would describe maybe as orange and black jerseys, Ballyboden in the blue and white. The
Tangerine is the official.
Tangerine, okay, yeah. Thank you very much. There is to be a case of going through today, as in it will go to extra time and penalties if required, but we will have to get winners on the day in both games. So we could be here for a long time today between these two matches. And as I say, a little bit later on, we've got the draws for Senior 1 and Senior 2, the semi-finals. John Brian McCarthy starting goal for Ballinteer, an under-21 All-Ireland winner with Dublin. And Coleman, you've already spotted one or two changes.
Yeah, I just see that Dan O'Leary is starting wing back for Ballinteer there. There's a bit of pace there, legs is probably what they're looking for, a bit of drive forward. So early on there's a couple of changes.
So here we go, referee about to get us underway. Our referee is Darren Delaney. And we're underway in the quarterfinals. Can Ballinteer pull off a shock? David Devereux, Colin Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick thought he might let a shot go, recycles it instead. That's a very decent start. Fergal Duffy popping it over there. A long-serving member of the team. Former captain, of course, son of Kieran Duffy, who manages the Ballinteer Intermediates.
Yeah, great start for Ballinteer. You win the break in the middle of the field, you drive forward. Thought they'd overpassed it or cooked it with the pass. Duffy did well to spin off and kick it over the bar. Interesting in the warm-up, they were setting up that way to try and get him onto his left boot. So good start for Ballinteer.
A very good start, but well, we know that Ballyboden will not panic. Good ball, Warren Egan. We know he's got pace, we know he's got power, we know he's got accuracy. And he knows it too. Good score.
Yeah, I mentioned the physicality. You can just see where he drove straight at the Ballinteer defender there. Wasn't really able to get a stop on him. Did manage to turn back. Probably a little bit easy in terms of breaking through on goal there, what Ballyboden have done. They seem to have brought everyone out and are just leaving the two inside in the shape of Warren Egan and Ryan O'Dwyer. So there's going to be lots of space for those guys to operate in, and something that Ballinteer will need to be alert to.
We can make an argument that Ballinteer got out of the group last year. They did play knockout football in one sense. They got to a quarter-final playoff against Castleknock. Those two teams couldn't be separated at the end of the group, so they had to play off for a quarter-final spot. Ben Millis came forward, got it outside to Donnacha Carey. Luke Brannock tries to make his way through. Looks really comfortable carrying that ball. Takes it on himself. Comes off the woodwork, falls to Duffy. They're going for goal here maybe. And that was shinned wide by Ora McIver. But the referee is given the free in.
He's given a penalty.
I think. Well, we'll get another look at that in a second, but
yeah, I think after he went to the shot, a tackle came in on him, so it does look like that he said he may be leading with an elbow there, which looks a bit peculiar. I thought it looked fair enough that he was going for the shot at target.
Well, let's have a look.
And the defender came back across him. Great cut through. Duffy does well to react to the ball off the upright here. Slips inside. Did well to find the pass. So let's just watch as he gets the shot away here. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what the referee's saying that has led to the penalty, but he's obviously made a decision around it.
Well, Jack Lundy, who has played age grade football for Dublin, up against Dara Gogan. Lundy. Well struck penalty. Ballinteer St John's lead by 1-1 to 1 point. They needed a good start. They've got it. Jack Lundy with the perfect penalty.
Yeah, very fortunate maybe with the penalty, but not fortunate with the finish into the corner despite the goalkeeper running the right way. I mentioned the first 10 or 15 minutes being important. Great start for Ballinteer and a real opportunity to get a nail on to Ballyboden here if they can.
Jack Lundy, who captained the Dublin Miners in the recent past. Donnacha Carey hung on to that one for a bit too long. Referee gives a free out. Sean Dempsey, the manager of Ballinteer St John's, formerly of Laois, but he's managed all around the Leinster region, a very experienced guy. Here's Shane Clayton, speaking of experience, pops it off to Ross McGarry. Good tackle from Lundy. Clayton, that's risky enough, but it's a risk that pays off.
Yeah, just takes the mark and settles things down a little bit. Very experienced head, Colin Pascal, so well able to knock it over from here, but good thought process to put a little bit of pause on the football. Great score.
A really, really good score.
He's been such a constant for this Ballyboden team over the years. He doesn't ever fail to show up. Works really hard off the ball, which is the mark of probably those better forwards in the game. It's almost the unseen without the ball that generates so much for teams inside in terms of their forward line.
Paddy Dunleavy, by the way, just to confirm, has got a yellow card. Paddy Dunleavy, a dual player. Played under 20 hurling for Dublin. Marauding forward is Alex Gavin, a very strong young man. Here's Warren Egan. Deegan trying to escape from Paddy Connaughton, the Leitrim man. Egan gets his free.
Yeah, and Egan's lucky there. The referee didn't spot the little bit of afters when he'd won the free. There was an advantage pushing through. He was still being tugged at a little bit by Connaughton, and then just flashed out a high hand. So he's probably fortunate the referee didn't pick it up. Could have been a hot ball at the very least.
Darren O'Reilly booms it in. They're trying to work a goal here. Falls kindly. Paddy Connaughton, who gave away the free in the first place. Then it's spilled. Trying to pick it up as Alan Flood. Flood can't find a way through. Gets it back outside to Egan. Back to Flood. And that's a free in.
Yeah, a little bit shaky from the Ballinteer full back line there. They did manage to secure the ball, but came into traffic. Spoke about the physicality with Ballyboden. They're so big and strong that once they get a grip on you or tighten into the tackle, it's hard to break out of it. Really avoiding contact's the key thing.
And that's cushioned over by Colin Bascal. He's second of the match, both from dead ball situations. One a mark, one a free.
Yeah, great response. Looked like Ballinteer could have won a kick out to get back at Ballyboden. Ballyboden managed to win a free by just bottling up Donaghcary, and since then Ballinteer just failing to get the ball in the middle of the field here despite working on their kick out in the warm-up.
John Brian Carty just booms it into the centre. Colin Fitzpatrick moves it on. Clever ball. Donaghcary saw that there was no route through, so just went backwards. Luke Brannock. Good feet from Brannock. And just as I say that, he dropped it, then regathered it. That's fantastic. Ballyboden get the possession and get the free.
Yeah, very strong. Great hand in. Looked like Luke Brannock was away twice there. Managed to get a paw on him and just spin the ball away from him. Just lacking that little bit of drive to cut through that Ballyboden forward line.
One beat has started for Ballyboden. Ball down the line to Warren Egan, pops it off. Flood is running. But instead of passing, Ryan O'Dwyer took the shot on, and why not? It was a good score, his first of the game. We're all square.
Yeah, arguably a chance to pop the ball as Alan Flood was flying past him there. Looked like he had a clear path to goal. O'Dwyer decided just to pop it over the bar. But again, 3 on the spin from Ballyboden in a great response to the Ballinteer goal. Just need to look at working maybe a short kick out or trying to win something around the middle, see if they can give a platform to their forwards inside, because there is a lot of space. No sweepers, no spare players back. Very much a player on player.
And John Brian Carty has taken too much time there, and it will be a hot ball on the 20-metre line.
Yeah, he delayed the last kick. I think the referee was probably aware second time around he wasn't going to give him the same length of time at it.
That's a strong fist running after it is McGarry. His half volley just goes wide. MacDonald got his fist onto that. McGarry almost run it. Well, he did run onto it, but he almost finished it. John Brian Carty gets away with one there.
Yeah, he's a monster man. Michael MacDonald in the middle of the field there got a big strong fist to that. There was a dive in around the square too to try and see if they could get a touch on it. Didn't manage to do it.
MacDonald still only 19, part of that DCU Freshers team that won the All-Ireland this year, beating UCC in the final at IT Carlow. Lundy, the goal scorer, goes long. Brannock was the target, knocked away from his path, sweeping it up now, Paddy Dunleavy. Clayton. Ross McGarry. Ryan Baines, who's a former Mayo under-20 footballer in Dublin studying dentistry. Played his way up the grades. He impressed so much with the intermediates they couldn't not pick him for the seniors. That's a brilliant steal back from Ryan O'Dwyer. Just too many tangerine and black jerseys around him though. Fergal Duffy.
In fairness, both teams are looking up, seeing if they can hit that full forward line. Luke Brannock for Ballinteer, it's Ryan Dwyer on the other side, where they're just looking to deliver the ball, maybe that 30-40 yard pass, because there isn't that defensive structure. There's a little bit of space there, so both teams probably need to be on alert to that pass.
Dan O'Leary got his hands on it there. Ballinteer maraud forward again. Spilling it, but to his own teammate was Owen Fitzpatrick. Here's Jack Lundy. Pounced upon as soon as he got the ball. Referee has given a free in. Lundy wants to take it quickly, but isn't allowed. It was a clever run into space by Duffy. Had he got that, maybe he was in on goal, but you have to play the whistle.
Yeah, he's unlucky because, you're told to just keep it moving. Referee obviously wanted to have a chat with him. I think he thought that he got caught high around the head and wanted to make sure he was okay.
Dan O'Leary. Lundy. Drops it short. Well taken by Gogan. Out to Clayton. Ross McGarry. Darren O'Reilly pops it off. Spilled into the path of Ryan Baines. Baines gets away from Liam Smith. O'Reilly. O'Reilly winds up and has a go. And why not? That's an exquisite point.
What a booming score there. He was being shouted back the field here to throw it back out again to about the 50-metre line. Decided to take it on himself. Is a slight breeze coming off the top of the stand there at the back of the goal, so did well to drive it over the bar. I think the entire full forward line now for Boden have got themselves on the scoreboard, so that just shows the power and potential that they have inside there.
That's a great take in the centre by Alex Gavin. Another one of the young guard that we talked about. Spill by Warren Egan. Warren Egan was boxed in but got out. Egan's thinking goal here. Egan! What a goal!
Well, it's all about power. That's in a nutshell all power. I mentioned in the first score that he got after a minute, he made a direct line at goal. Ballinteer did well maybe to just make him check, and he knocked it over the bar. That time just not strong enough. Might have been a question of one or two steps as he went around the corner back on that time. Referee was happy with the move, and then he just knocks it into the net. But again, just so strong. Ballinteer unable to match him. And a really strong response from Ballyboden. A goal and 4 points. That goal, that early penalty from Ballinteer.
Well, when you think of Warren Egan, you think of power and pace. He really showed both attributes there. Ross McGarry sails it over. His first of the game.
Yeah, Ballinteer in trouble a little bit here. They just can't seem to get hands on kick out, so it's relentless now from Ballyboden. I mentioned after the penalty how Ballinteer nearly got another ball and a chance to go at Ballyboden, but since they've turned over that ball, they've been in total control around the middle of the field. If they're not picking up a break, they're winning it cleanly, but it's their movement up front. There's pace coming from all angles. The guys inside are showing hard. You know, Ballinteer just need to, push hard now to try and win a ball, settle on the ball and see if they can create a score.
Ball breaks kindly for Ballyboden. Well, it didn't break kindly. They made it theirs. They won the battle. Here's Michael MacDonald. Mick, as he's better known. Ballyboden with lots of runs off the shoulders. It's really difficult to defend that. Warren Egan. Egan with a little skip. Bean moves it inside. Darren O'Reilly. Daz, as he's better known. Alan Flood. Flood. Basquel looking for a first from play. He'll have to wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, but again, there's time and space for Ballyboden. Basquel came off the shoulder there. There's no one getting a hand on. There's no touch to really put pressure on. Ballyboden really dominant around the field at the minute, and Ballinteer just need to step up, get a yard closer, just try and force a couple of turnovers and really secure a couple of kickouts. Really struggling in that regard at the moment.
Ross McGarry. Gavin, still only 19. Has he given that one a little bit too much?
I think he has an advantage off the referee, so he's good enough. I think the guys were shouting at him to go. Thought he had taken too much out of it. Ballinteer probably just needed to stand off and maybe would have managed to get a turnover off him rather than pushing him in the back and giving what should be a relatively straightforward free to Colin Basquel.
Five between them. Will it be six? It's a good score. His third of the game. He's second from a free. He also kicked a mark.
Yeah, look, if you're good enough to take on a shot and kick it over the bar, well then you can deal with that as from a defender. It's when you're handing over frees 30 yards out from goal, dead straight on. You're doing your team no favours at all, and Ballinteer really struggling around middle of the field and need kick-out win.
Fitzpatrick looks for the run outside. That's Donnacha Carey. They could do the score, Ballinteer. This is actually the first time in a while that they've been inside the Ballyboden 45. Here. Fitzpatrick. Millis. cornerback in the Dublin under-20s. Was part of Desi Farrell's wider Dublin squad as well. Here he is again. Fitzpatrick. Jack Lundy. Devereux. Devereux skips. Well, I was going to say pass, but he had to go so far out wide. You nearly lost any advantage you got by passing the player. But that's a good ball inside to Luke Brannock. Brannock throws it backwards. Devereux rescues it. Oran McIver, originally from Steelestown, Brian Oakes and Derry. Paddy Connaughton shapes, shoots and scores. That's a good point by the Leitrim man.
Yeah, great score. 12 minutes since their last one, so really important score for Ballinteer to get. Drove forward and kicked a good score coming back onto his left side. Probably a chance earlier than that. Luke Brannock turned back into traffic on his right side. Bit of a problem for Davy Devereux, who seems to be just down injured at the moment for Ballinteer, and Ballyboden man down as well there in the shape of Alex Gavin.
Devereux, who played for Wicklow in recent years.
Yeah, and obviously a brother of Nicky, who probably Ballinteer, one of their most decorated players in terms of his success with Dublin. Sigerson Cup medals as well. Really strong player on the bench today for Ballinteer.
Let's have a look at that Ballyboden goal again. Warren Egan, a thing of beauty.
Yeah, like he picks it up, he's outside the 21 metre line and just drives straight at the defender. Real power. He used his steps really, really well leading into the hop of the ball just before that. Really clever use. The big high arm is an Alan Brogan trick. Keep the ball up in the air, look like it's going to bounce, and you'll probably rob a step or two more.
Luke Brannock. That's a really fine score. His first of the game and a really important one. Played full forward for the Dublin under-20s and Dublin minors. Had a bit of pedigree, this guy. Yeah,
he has loads of talent, loads of ability. Probably physically, that Ballyboden full back line are just asking him a few questions in terms of trying to beat them, get past them. But when he can get himself into a little space, he certainly has the ability to kick a score. Well kept in by Fitzpatrick.
He found Fergal Duffy. Duffy and Clayton going at it here. Duffy, that's a very tight angle. And he kicks it wide.
Yeah, unlucky Duffy, worked hard there. Probably the wrong option. Probably should have looked to recycle to come back again. And the goalkeeper, a bit of miscommunication with himself and Ross McGarry.
Remember, you can subscribe to Dubs TV on YouTube, and anything that we've got coming up, be it live games or draws or anything like that, it'll pop up automatically for you. We've got the Senior 1 and Senior 2 Championship semi-final draws coming up after the second game today. All three will be separate broadcasts. We'll take a break after this before we go into Castleknock and Thomas Davis. Here's Jack Lundy hanging it up towards the back stick. Breaks kindly for blue and white. Alan Flood. Baines looks a willing runner, doesn't he? Got to a Connacht under-20 final. They were beaten by Roscommon. They beat Galway on penalties in the semi-final. Liam Smith read that one really well. Paddy Connaughton looks like the kind of player who'll run up and down the pitch all day. Speaking of which, here's Dan O'Leary. Brannock again. Bean brings him down. It's another free for Ballinteer St John's, and they're getting change out of running at Ballyboden.
Well, that's where their strength is. It's in their pace. It's not the physicality. They can't afford to get bottled up into a physical battle with Ballyboden because there's only going to be one winner. So what they need to do is on those transitions be far more quicker with the ball, drive direct, and then try and move the ball before the contact comes. A great response given what they shipped after they scored the penalty. A good opportunity to add on another score here, but it's that pace, that commitment to the ball driving forward that they need to try and deliver on a little bit more.
Unfortunately, they couldn't take advantage of that opportunity. It's another wide, 4 points in it, 20 minutes gone.
Yeah, disappointing that he just sails on the wrong side of the post. They're hard, got the opportunities to get a score, so you really need to drop it over the bar when the opportunity presents.
Almost 20 minutes gone for the pedantic among you. Here's Jack Lundy. Slips, but manages to pop off the pass to Diarmuid Kennedy. Kennedy missed last season. He was teaching in Dubai, but he's very much back this year. Owen Fitzpatrick Devereux. Lundy moves it on. Fergal Duffy. Duffy's got a runner outside. That's McIver. Duffy manages to get the pass away. And Donnacha Carey kicks a good point.
Great score from Donnacha Carey. Really great work from Fergal Duffy. Thought he was going to slip the pass inside in the D that would have maybe created a goal opportunity. Did well to recycle it out for Carey to knock it over the bar. But really good from Ballinteer. Much better. That direct running is, as you rightly said, creating a little bit of change for them at the moment.
Carey, a former Coláiste Owen captain their senior football team. You don't do that unless you've got something about you. Coláiste Owen, no matter what year it is, they always have talented hurlers and footballers. Ross McGarry trying to get away from Ben Millist. Goes down the line. Darren O'Reilly. Darren O'Reilly gets it back. Spotted Basquel in a bit of space. It's a free out because he threw the ball.
Yeah, I think he was possibly fouled before. Maybe he did make the throw. And Darren O'Reilly clearly not happy with the decision and is going to get a bit of a talking to. But I think he was unlucky. I think he was probably fouled before the decision was given that he had thrown the ball. But again, the whistle is in Darren Delaney's mouth and he issues a yellow for something that was said back to him, I imagine.
Managers get so frustrated when their players get yellow cards for stuff like that. I mean, you can argue that all yellow cards are needless. There are some you'd accept if you foul a guy who's bearing in on goal, but Kennedy. Smith. Lundy. Goes where he's needed, doesn't he, Lundy?
Yeah, he's very tidy operator.
Luke Brannock. Brannock just injects a bit of pace. Flaherty stayed with him. Brannock got his pass away. Running back onto it was Brannock. Followed the ball really well. Here's Owen Fitzpatrick. And that spins wide.
Such a shame for the move that Ballinteer put together there from inside their own 45, shifted the ball back over to the left hand side of the field. Right guys coming onto the ball at the right pace. But just a final finish there. I think I have them chalk now for 4 wides at this stage, and they do have a little bit of a breeze behind them blowing into that goal.
Great play from Warren Egan to get it to Alan Flood. Ryan O'Dwyer. O'Dwyer! Great save. And the rebound collected by Ben Millis. Fitzpatrick helps it to Lundy. Dan O'Leary. We might get a look at that save in a minute or two. We'll definitely get a look at it at half time, but that could be a big moment in this game.
Yeah, but from Ryan O'Dwyer, how smart. He's seen there was an opportunity to step his man, did that. John Brian Carty did brilliant to get the save. But really going for the jugular, half a chance of a goal. He wanted to turn it into the full opportunity, and a brilliant save keeps, I won't say Ballinteer's chances alive, but certainly keeps that gap to where it was in 4 points. Big save potentially.
If you're interested in club results from all around the country, John Bryan's dad, Brian, does a great podcast in which he does all the club results from around the country. Comes out on Monday. You can catch it on all your usual podcast places. Here's Ian O'Hare, Owen Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick has some help. That's Duffy. McIver. Lundy. That's a nice pass. And the mark called. Clever play by Colin Fitzpatrick.
Just on the brink, I'd say. He was probably on that 45 metre line. If that just not travelled inside it, wins the mark. And Ballinteer, given the pressure that they were under, have done really well to narrow that gap down to 2 points. Their turn to dominate a little bit, and it's because of that more direct running. They've settled into it a little bit and are trying to get to grips a little bit better with Ballyboden.
Colin Fitzpatrick, another one of the Coláiste Owen crew. Well, the referee has spotted something here that he doesn't like. It's going to be a throw up on the 20 metre line.
Yeah, he seems to have been talking to Darragh Gogan about where he's taken his kick out, and he made reference to it a couple of times when he went around it, so he's obviously picked up on the fact that he's either behind the line or in front of the line. I'm not quite sure, but he wasn't happy with it.
Owen Fitzpatrick, whose brother Colin has just scored a point, trying to get his fist onto that. Jack Lundy battling for it as well. Colin Fitzpatrick with the foul. Brought down Alex Gavin. Clayton comes storming out of defence. Chasing after that one is Dunleavy. Just about keeps it in. Has Alan Flood as an option. Running out of his position is Ryan O'Dwyer. He wanted the ball, but he was covered. Here's Darren O'Reilly, who wins a free in. Went longish, even though there was a 4-on-2 in favour of Ballinteer, and it's worked out well for Ballinteer. Lundy. Moved out wide by Devereux. Lundy. Colin Fitzpatrick. Luke Brannock trying to get around Clayton. It's not easy to do. Clayton fouls him, free in. Making a surging run as Liam Smith, the referee, didn't allow them to take it quickly, so Smith will just jog back.
Yeah, Brannock did well there, but again, I think probably a little bit harsh on Shane Clayton. Looked like he had done the right thing and getting right side of Brannock that time. Again, referee deemed it was a foul, but I do think it's probably a little bit soft, but gives an opportunity to Jack Lundy maybe to tag another score on. Missed one earlier on from further out onto the left side as we look at it. But again, a great response from Ballinteer, starting to put a little bit of pressure on Ballyboden. They're winning those 50-50 balls that they maybe lost in the first 10 or 15 minutes.
It's kept alive, but it falls kindly for Gogan.
Unlucky by Duffy, kept it in, but no one else was as alert as he was to the break.
Still a 2-point game. A first half that has flown by. It's been really entertaining. Ryan Baines was dispossessed, but Ballyboden get the line ball. On the sunny side of Parnell Park today, we're in the shadow. There's a bit of a breeze as well. It's blowing down towards the golf course end. Bit of space for Colin Basquel. Basquel. And there is his first point from play. He's 4th overall.
Yeah, great score again. He sized up his marker. Reckoned he had him for a bit of a speed or at least a turn. Managed to swing back onto his right foot and knock it over the bar. It's that, ability maybe to get scores a little bit easier than Ballinteer that Ballyboden are demonstrating. But that said, Ballinteer still have responded well to the big gap that was there after 15 minutes. 1-7 to 1-1 it was at that stage. Diarmuid Kennedy.
It was risky, but it worked out, that pass. Devereux charging on. There's lots of space there. He's got Colin Fitzpatrick outside. Fitzpatrick looked inside for a better option. Instead, they'll have to work at Fergal Duffy. Ballyboden have dropped right back. They're protecting the scoring zone. Oran McIver goes over everyone. His first score. A good point from the Derry man.
Yeah, great score. Thought there was probably a goal shot maybe in Colin Fitzpatrick there. Just wasn't sure. Turned onto his left side. There was no one inside. Did well to give it to Duffy, who recycled it out for the score.
First class delivery from Gogan into the breadbasket of McGarry. Basquel. Ballinteer winning the break there. Fitzpatrick. Dan O'Leary. Ben Millist. Lundy. Devereux pushed in the back, free in Ballinteer.
Yeah, did well. Devereux, he was down on his hunkers, maybe gasping for a little bit of breath, but showed hard there to win the free.
Mark called. McIver under real pressure, couldn't make it his. Alex Gavin did really well. Ross McGarry. Basquel allowed it to fall his way. Basquel, his second from play.
Yeah, and I don't know if you heard the shout. It was probably not picked up on our microphones here, but you're one-on-one. Warren Egan shouted at him, go at him, go at him. He said, you're one-on-one. That's what Pascal did, found the gap on his left foot, knocked it over the bar. And that's probably the difference when Ballyboden are getting those chances one-on-one. They're driving that little bit harder towards the goal. Hence why they're that little bit still ahead in the game at this stage.
Dan O'Leary. Fitzpatrick. Paddy Connaughton. Good pass, Jeremy Kennedy. Ben Millis. Ora McIver is going to have to run to get to this one. And he just about keeps it in play. No, he doesn't.
Yeah, great run by Millis. Just the pass was a bit inaccurate there. Interesting first half, really enjoyable. Ballyboden certainly had the better of it from after Ballinteer's penalty on 3 minutes. But good response from Ballinteer, probably understanding the challenge that Ballyboden are presenting in terms of the physicality.
Is this the kind of first half that Ballinteer, while they're still in it, have given it so much that maybe they won't be able to keep up with Ballyboden in the second half? We've seen it, for example, with the Dublin footballers when they were dominating and doing their 6 in a row, that very often they'd be at parity at half time, but then they just pull away in the second half. Do you see that happening in this game?
Yeah, I think they had to find a response midway through that first half, or they were going to have been in big trouble because they just allowed Ballyboden too much space. Physicality was causing a problem, and their own kickouts were causing their huge problems from it as well. So the fact that they responded and got those scores, they had to lift their game. They had to up the ante a little bit. I think there's probably 2 or 3 scores they've left behind them there in that first half. Ballyboden scores probably just coming a little bit easier than Ballinteer scores are coming. But I think they go in at half time 3 points down with an opportunity to come back out and reset. I do think the breeze will give Ballyboden a little bit of advantage second half because of their accuracy from their forwards, the likes of McGarry, Pascal. He has 5 points already in this first half. So, Ballinteer are in an okay position. I do expect Ballyboden will come with a bit more thunder into the second half, and it's just a matter of seeing if Ballinteer can create more scoring chances. Not only creating them, but just being more clinical when they do create them.
Before we look at the highlights, I just want to tell you that Raheny have beaten Clontarf 111 to 9 points in the relegation playoff. That means that Clontarf will be relegated to Senior 2 for 2023. The draw for the Senior 1 and 2 semi-finals coming up a little bit later on. Don't forget, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, then anything that we're showing will pop up automatically, including the second game today, Thomas Davis against Castleknock, and of course the draw and the semi-finals and finals if we're showing them. They might very well end up on RTE or TG Car. But before we get to the second half, let's have a look at the highlights of the first half.
Yeah, look, I mentioned that Ballinteer would have been looking for a good start. Fergal Duffy notched one over after the first minute, albeit it was responded to very well by Warren Egan at the far end of the field. And this probably, when you think of the goal that's going to come up later on, he showed maybe what he has in that pace and drive, taking on his direct marker to try and create that scoring opportunity. This the penalty incident, still not 100% sure why it was awarded. Ball comes off the upright here, Duffy does well to respond, manages to flick it back into the centre, and just as he's hitting the ball, tackle comes across. Still not 100% sure on it, but brilliantly executed by Lundy into the corner of the net. And at that stage, 4 minutes in, it was 1-1 to a point. Up steps Pascal. He delivers one from a mark, one from a free. Very, very, very strong first half, and there's 5 points I mentioned that he scored. And then there's this, direct ball into the inside line. Great pace here coming off the shoulder. I thought he was going to get the pass. Alan Flood, instead of Dwyer, just knocks it over the bar there. Goal opportunity just sails wide on the far side, but they were so dominant at this stage. This is a great score. Takes a solo just to set himself, knocks it over the bar. Darren O'Reilly just demonstrating the power that exists within the team. I mentioned Egan's score from play in terms of his point. Same run here. He gets on the ball, just drives towards the goal. Defender is trying to get back around at him, slips the goalkeeper and buries it into the net. And at that stage then I was a little bit fearful for Ballinteer. It was 1-5 to 1-1. They were struggling to collect their own kickouts. You look at the bodies piling forward here. McGarry comes inside to flip it over the bar. Really, really dominant. I mentioned Ballinteer struggling on their kick out. And then this free really at the 15-minute mark or 40-minute mark. It's 1-7 to 1-1. And Ballinteer needed a response. Credit to them. They're a young group of players. There's a little bit of experience, splattered around the team, but some great play, real direct running. The team has loads of pace. What they don't have maybe is that same level of physicality Ballyboden has. So you're looking to try and move into free space rather than getting bottled up. See here where they're bottled up, but at least he manages to recycle the ball back for another knock over the bar. And then Ballinteer's response, in fairness, was 4 points to Ballyboden's. You know, it's Colin Basquel here. The movement is great. Sizes at one side. Pops inside. Oh, it's Ryan O'Dwyer's goal chance, which is a great save. Again, it's probably that, you know, Ryan is young, but to go at it when there's an opportunity of a goal and really go for the juggler, so to speak. This is a great score. Knows that a score is needed, goes right, then cuts back left onto the right side and knocks it over the bar. Really good score for Ballyboden. You know, but again, Davy Devereux making a drive and run forward. He looked a bit gas after the run, but he did his enough. I thought he was going to go straight here for goal. He turned inside, was sure the opportunity was last, but again, Duffy, an old head there, slips it back for another great point. And Ballinteer, grew into the game certainly across that second half. I mentioned being a little bit concerned early on, but they certainly knew what they were doing late on. Brilliant from Basquel again. You know, he can go right or left, so the defender then is a little bit caught as to where they go. But leaves us nicely poised at half time, 1-9 to 1-6, and Ballinteer get a chance to reset again at half time.
Half time in a warm enough Parnell Park. It's the first of two quarter-finals today, the second one coming up at 4 o'clock. That's Thomas Davis and Castleknock. Before that, we will play to a conclusion here. Extra time and penalties if required. Half time, Ballyboden St Endas 1-9, Ballinteer 1-6. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're about to start the second half of Ballyboden St Endas and Ballinteer St John's. An ominous sign for Ballinteer. Michael Dara McCauley warming up at half time. He always looks big, but he looks like an absolute giant on the pitch at half time here in Parnell Park because there's loads of kids around him. So he looks even bigger, even taller than he actually is.
He certainly does. Also looks like Nicky Devereaux's making an appearance for Ballinteer, who brings a bit of physicality into the game as well. Very experienced player. But yeah, Michael Dara McCauley's physique is phenomenal. The poor kids didn't know what way to go.
He looked like Gulliver in Lilliput.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure even Jonathan Swift could have come up with a character like Michael Dara McCauley.
Davy Devereaux's still there, so just trying to see who it is that Nicky Devereaux is come into the field to play for.
Well, Darren Chambers is informing the referee he's on logistics for Ballinteer St John's. The Devereaux who featured for Wicklow in the last number of years. Oisin McConville now the Wicklow manager.
Also looks like David Murray has also come in for Ballinteer, starting in the half forward line here in the second half.
Another member of the O2 group that included Lundy, Fenton, Millist. Very decent soccer player. Can play at wing back or wing forward. Very versatile, very fast, very similar to many of these Ballinteer players. That's spilled by Darren O'Reilly. Ball rebounding around, collected by Ian O'Hare. Fitzpatrick. Ballinteer against a stiff enough breeze in the second half. Ben Millist. Colin Fitzpatrick. That could go anywhere. Fergal Duffy, who worked hard in the first half, has started with a good play there in the second. Jack Lundy. Ben Millist. Fitzpatrick will have to get there. And does, much to his credit, but then pokes it into the path of Alan Flood. Blocked down on Warren Egan. A little bit casual. David Devereaux. Devereaux's fouled. Ian O'Hare. Popped it off to McIver. That spill, that's really frustrating. But he might get it back. He does get it back. Lundy caught a break there. I beg your pardon. It was actually Colin Fitzpatrick who got it to Liam Smith. Liam Smith sails it over. A very, very hard-won score.
Well, his cornerback colleague got one in the first half. He did well to sail it over Liam Smith. Bit of a concern for Colin Fitzpatrick. Just as he offloaded the ball, looked like he twisted an ankle or caught the back of his heel maybe as he was offloading the ball. But really hard work for Ballinteer there in terms of creating that scoring opportunity. Duffy again did well in the far corner to win the ball with Clayton coming out against him. Managed to recycle it, come across the field. And while Fitzpatrick is down getting treatment there, it was Liam Smith who came onto it a pace and boomed it over the bar. It looked like it was travelling to the right side and the umpire had a good hard look at it. But again, a good start for Ballinteer into the second half, and probably both teams a little bit careless the way they were protecting the ball early on in the second half here. Scores probably be at a premium here from a Ballinteer point of view, so everything needs to be worked hard and be clinical in front of goal.
Physio Brian O'Rourke has performed his usual magic, and Colin Fitzpatrick is back up and running. Here's Baines, goes outside. Baines continued his run. Alan Flood, if that goes over, that's some score. It isn't.
Great run by Baines to create opportunity. Big kick from Flood, just manages to nap it onto the wrong side of the bar. Really important for Ballinteer now to get kickouts right in the second half. Ballyboden are experienced in putting a press on the kick out. They're aware that John Brian Carty probably doesn't like to go short, so they're trying to force him into that middle of the field kick that then puts a bit of pressure on Ballinteer to win it clean. Great take, one-handed, brilliant.
Fantastic from Bean. Gavin. Warren Egan. Egan injects the pace again. Egan. That's some finish, his second of the game.
Well, when you're forward, what you're trying to see is if there's a mismatch, and that's not meant in disrespectful tone Fitzpatrick, but he's not a cornerback. He's not used to defending maybe in that side of the field. But again, Egan, think of the goal he got first half, the point he got first half. He only knows one way: head down, drive towards goal, uses his strength, make sure he uses up all his steps as well, and roofs it into the net. just opens up that gap for Ballyboden. And I mentioned their game against Ballymund where they were struggling up front for scores, and then they hit 3 goals on the spin. That's what they can do. They have that power and ability up front. Just needs for Ballinteer to settle again, but really strong from Ballyboden. Pressed the kick out and got a big goal off it.
Well, I met his dad before the game getting a coffee over in the garage, and he looked in good form. His son is in good form today. Ben Millis somehow gets it forward. That's a clever play by Lundy. Put in the foot race, Alan Flood wins.
Yeah, where did Flood come out of? Really, really great pace to win that there. Great work from Ballyboden. The pressure they put on the Ballinteer centre back Ben Millis there, didn't let him away easy. Could have been given away a foul, very much so, but they worked him. Then when it looked like Lundy had made a break, out of nowhere came Alan Flood to burn him and pick up the possession. Really strong work from Ballyboden.
Gavin. Takes too much out of it, takes too many steps. Free out for Ballinteer.
I think he had too many options. Ushima's problem, he had 3 runners went past him. He thought it was creating a gap. Ended up making no decision on the ball and turns it over again.
He was the captain of the DCU Freshers this year that won that All-Ireland title. A couple of players out there today who were involved in that. Here's Devereux. Devereux somehow pops back up, gets the ball to Luke Brannock. They need a score. They haven't got one, he just didn't quite catch it right.
No, but again, great work from David Devereux. Took 3 players with him, managed to turn inside, then just gave such a lovely floated pass for Brannock into space. Probably had a little bit too much time, pulled it to the wrong side. Again, they're creating the opportunities. It's just being clinical in front of goal is so important.
Gogan. Luke O'Donoghue. Comes off the chest of Ryan O'Dwyer, couldn't keep it in play.
Yeah, Kennedy did well there, put pressure on him, win the ball. Davy Devereux was trying to track back, so it was an important win for Ballinteer.
Lundy. House was the shout. Brannock kept his eye on the ball. Brannock wins the free in. Worked hard for it, Lundy.
Did well to manage to win a free off it. There's just a small bit, slow on the ball, and I don't mean they're taking an extra second on the ball, which is just allowing a Ballyboden player get a hand on or get a heavy hit on. It's that speed of thought, speed of movement that takes you out of all that traffic and all of those problems. Still very much there for Ballinteer to make inroads. It's just that step a little bit quicker to try and get out of this into the space before they're shut down.
Devereux wanted it back, but instead it comes to Ben Millis. There was a foul on Liam Smith off the ball by Warren Egan. It's a free.
Yeah, very silly free from Warren Egan. The ball was gone and he ran into him to knock him to the ground. Silly decision. Just don't think he's picking up a yellow card. Just note it in the referee's notebook. But Ballinteer just struggling to break that line. There's 8 Ballyboden players across that line there. Really hard for Ballinteer to cut through, given what they're hitting is a solid wall there.
Fitzpatrick to Lundy. Smith. Clever ball. Cannons off Devereux, but falls back into his orbit. Well, they still have time, Ballinteer St John's, and we've seen already in this game that even when they went 5-6 points down in the first half, they steadied themselves and got back into it.
They did, but they've the ball for 2-3 minutes there rushing, and they're just struggling to break that line. I mentioned the physicality. There's a breeze blowing as well now, so the kick pass that you maybe could deliver first half is a little bit trickier now. So you do have to break the line before you can deliver, and that's just where they're struggling a little bit at the moment. Ballyboden just so strong in holding that line.
Owen Fitzpatrick goes to ground, spills it back to Ian O'Hare.
Great defending. 3 players closed in on Owen Fitzpatrick that time. They have a really clear understanding of what they're trying to do.
Liam Smith. Back to Smith. Can they work something here? Ben Millis didn't catch his shot right. Bounces wide.
Yeah, long period of possession. They don't come away with a score. That gives Ballyboden a huge lift. Defensively, they're well set up. They're not allowing the ball inside to the inside line. Everything that Ballinteer are doing, they're having to do a great movement of the ball through the hands, in fairness to Ballinteer. Millis just unlucky that his finish wasn't as good as it possibly should and could have been.
Alex Gavin couldn't keep it in. He was right in front of his management there, including Kenny Naughton, Martin Masterson, Andrew Kearns, former Club Player of the Year, of course, Dara Walsh, Cormac Smith, all part of the management committee. Kenny Naughton, originally from Galway, but won a title with Ballyboden in 2009. Part of the Galway panel that won the All-Ireland in 2001. They came mightily close to winning the All-Ireland this year, but Kerry just pipping them. Shane Walsh, of course, playing for Crokes last night. Scarpering after it, Fergal Duffy. Ian O'Hare. And that's really frustrating for Ballinteer St John's. Two of them there, neither of them kept it in play.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why O'Hare didn't, win the ball. Looks like referee's not happy that Owen Fitzpatrick took it upon himself to leave the ball over the ball there. You see that so often in matches. I don't think I've ever seen anyone booked for putting the ball over the wall like that, but there's a first for everything, I suppose.
It's a yellow card for Owen Fitzpatrick.
Duffy did so well to get the ball out of the corner. Just such a shame they turn it over.
That's an important intervention from Davy Devereux. Paddy Connaughton. Owen Fitzpatrick, the captain. Fitzpatrick got sandwiched there. It squirts out and it comes to Ryan O'Dwyer. They're in again. It's Darren O'Reilly. That's a good finish. The penalty was coming anyway. O'Reilly didn't need it.
Yeah, but where did the goal come out of? Turnover in the middle of the field. Just that physicality. We mentioned it a couple of times, so I'm probably harping on about it at this stage. Owen Fitzpatrick has time and space on the ball. Decides to carry the ball into the contact. Big hit. Ball pops up in the air. And all of a sudden it's Ballyboden who are on the counter-attack. Really swift hands to give the ball into O'Reilly, and while he was fouled, still managed to tuck it into the corner. And all of a sudden, the gap is out to 8 again. And because of the difficulty Ballinteer are having in creating scoring opportunities, it's hard to see them, scoring 6 or 7 points. So they're going to need goals, and they've only created that one goal chance, which came on the back of a fairly fortunate penalty. So really challenging second half for Ballinteer now. Bowden just upped the ante a little bit, and that physicality in the tackle and winning those turnovers when Ballinteer had secured possession, just can't afford to give the ball away, because you're just not set up then to defend a quick ball.
Well, let's have a look at that third goal. Possibly the goal that has sealed it, although there is a long way to go.
Yeah, here's the hit I'm talking about. There's players around him, you wouldn't be overly happy with some of the reaction of Ballinteer players either in terms of tracking back. Great hands, flicks it on. The foul is probably made outside and travelling inside, so he does absolutely brilliant to stick it into the net. Darren O'Reilly. It just becomes a challenge now for Ballinteer to keep their heads, try and stick at the task, because Ballyboden really are turning the screw here.
From the cornerback's point of view there, Liam Smith, if he was going to bring him down, he really should have brought him down.
Correct. Rather than half bringing them down.
Yeah.
You mentioned about a good yellow card. That would have probably been a black card, I imagine, but it certainly would have been a very good yellow one if that's all he had picked up.
Yep. It's one of those occasions where it was worth the risk, because he knew if O'Reilly got past him, which he did, he was in on goal and probably going to score a goal anyway. Granted, very easy to say that from up here. Mick MacDonald has gone off. Didn't quite catch who came on. It's Michael Dara McCauley. Not a bad replacement. Ben Millist. They need a goal or some sort of score quickly. Duffy. It's wide, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's 3 second half wides. They've 1 point to show for the hard work that came from their cornerback Liam Smith. I mentioned at the outset maybe up front that Ballinteer might have a few challenges. They've Aidan Clabby now, who's a big strong guy coming around the full forward line, so they'll probably look to launch a little couple of balls in on top of him. Hope Duffy maybe can pick up a break, or Luke Brannock.
Yeah, Clabby's been around for a while. He's a bit of a stalwart. David Murray went outside, made a looping run, comes to Owen Fitzpatrick. Michael Dara McCauley couldn't intercept that one. Liam Fenton, named to start but didn't. Fenton kicks it wide.
Yeah, there's a lack of conviction in those shots, I'm afraid to say. There's the half chances are better than half chances, but they're really not bringing with it the conviction in terms of trying to get a score, and there's an air of inevitability, I suppose, about the Ballinteer challenge at the moment because of the fact they're not even managing to stick a couple of scores there.
Slipped through the hands of Ryan O'Dwyer. Collected by Diarmuid Kennedy. Devereux. Malachy, as always, working the scoreboard here in Parnell Park today. His son, Malachy Jr., watching in Sweden. Hope you're enjoying the game, Malachy.
Yeah, was a decent enough player himself in his time. Although I hear he's lying on the couch there, he probably needs to shake a leg and get a bit of help around the house.
You think just because you're standing up you're doing exercise?
Does that not count? No.
No, afraid not. Here's Owen Fitzpatrick. That's a decent turn by Fergal Duffy. Back to Owen Fitzpatrick. He works really, really hard, Owen Fitzpatrick, as does Duffy.
Yeah, brilliant tackle from Alex Gavin. Looked like he got the inside line on him. He stood up and did well. Great score, Lundy from outside. Brilliant score, but that's the challenge for Ballinteer. You're kicking ball over the bar from 35 yards, which is a half, I don't mean a half chance, but they're really not penetrating at that Ballyboden full back line. Mentioned Alex Gavin, really strong hand in terms of the turnover there. And just when you think you're doing okay as a cornerback, you see Conall Keeney coming onto the field and realise now there's another challenge in terms of the game of what you're being asked to do.
And Owen Fitzpatrick is struggling for Ballinteer. I think his day might be done. 15 minutes to go and 7 between them. Going off Darren O'Reilly, who I think it's fair to say is leaving on a high, having just got that goal.
Yeah, fair to Stone. Fitzpatrick looked like he was carrying a knock for probably 10 minutes there, went down and got a bit of treatment, just can't seem to shake it. Big player for Ballinteers, really worked hard throughout the game.
Joe Sweeney in the game for Ballinteer. Midfielder by and large. Here's Michael Dara Macaulay. Spilled out. Shot comes from Basquel, who gets the score. His third from play, his 6th overall. Yeah,
we just mentioned that, the difference between the sides. I suppose Ballinteer have had chances that they've put wide. That's Colin Basquel's probably first touch in the second half here. Manages to sail it over the bar, and that's that clinical nature in front of goal that Ballyboden have. There's years of experience for sure. Oh, bad kick out.
Unfortunately it was. Here's Colin Basquel. Basquel takes it on himself. Good save by John Brian Carthy. Flood. Ballyboden gets something out of that attack.
Yeah, well, the goal chance, possibly a pass into Keeney, but Basquel did well to come inside. But again, a second great save from John Brian Carthy, keeps Ballinteer's hopes alive. Great follow up by Alan Flood to knock it over the bar, but a big save just keeps things some way respectable, at least for Ballinteer early in the second half here, I suppose.
Ballyboden win it again. Michael Dara Macaulay wants it, doesn't get it. Warren Egan from a long way out to make it 2-2 for him, which he has done.
Yeah, big score, really about nowhere. The posts are. Egan has played very well today, looks up, knocks it over the bar, and there's a flatness to Ballinteer now. They realise probably that there's not a chance of getting a result out of the game, but they still have to stick to the task and not allow the scoreboard run away from them.
Michael Dara Macaulay involved in that attack. It's a special anniversary for him and the 2011 crew. Today is the anniversary of it, actually. The win against Kerry that started it all off. Fergal Duffy. Back in the days when people said an All-Ireland win for Dublin would be a good thing. Here's Luke Brannock. Goes to ground outside the square to free in.
Yeah, he's probably hurt himself there in the way he's cut across. But at least a little bit of drive. Again, it's that wall that they meet every time they get towards the goal there. It's so hard to break down that Ballyboden back line because of the way they filter back, because of the physicality that's within the group.
£21 to 11 when you make the conversion. I wonder, will Lundy take a chance here and go for it? Ballyboden, judging by the way they've lined up on the goal line, think he will.
Yeah, this isn't a nice sight either for Ballinteer. Looks like Luke Brannock's day is up too, which is unfortunate for him. He's been lively inside for Ballinteer. He's a young guy coming through, probably doesn't have that same level of physicality that the Ballyboden guys he's coming up against are meeting him with. But it's an unfortunate end to his day because he's shown hard for Ballinteer. He's just unlucky to have to be helped off the field.
Declan O'Mahony in for Ballyboden. Not bad substitutes to be able to call on Decky O'Mahony, Conall Keeney and Michael Dara McCauley. Going off is Luke O'Donoghue, a guy who's worked incredibly hard over the years, maybe one of the more unheralded members of the Ballyboden team, but quite the player. The kind of guy you'd want. Lundy taps it over.
There's a big 10 minutes for Ballinteer. Can they put in a shift for 10 minutes, see if they can maybe work a goal scoring opportunity and just ask a couple of questions?
Michael Dara McCauley, Declan O'Mahony, Shane Clayton.
Declan is a born and bred Ballinteer man, although he played his football with Ballyboden. I would have played with his brother Vincent with Ballinteer, but he carved out a great career with Ballyboden as he did with Dublin too, and great to see him on the field of play. He's a long time on the go and has been a great servant for the club.
Flood received it well from Ross McGarry. Colin Basquel. Warren Egan. Flaherty launches it. John Brian Carthy got a strong fist, strong palm maybe more so to that one.
Nah, did really well. It was one of those ones that easy because it caused him problems. He came out, he was strong, managed to knock the ball away.
John Bryan has put an awful lot of work into getting himself right. A couple of years ago he did have injury issues. I remember he used to bump into him on his way to physio. So it's good to see him back out there, good to see him playing senior football. He'll be tested again perhaps here because Ballyboden have the free, which Keeney drops into the path of Ryan O'Dwyer. Basquel. O'Dwyer. Not much a keeper can do about that one, only watch it sail over.
That's a lovely score. The movement between the two players there just created that little bit of space for him by giving and going again. Comes around onto his left foot and just slides it over the bar. Ballinteer have worked hard. There's a big learning obviously as you get to the latter stages of championship around the lift in performance that's required. The real standout is the physicality certainly, but just a couple of wrong options taken when scores came and those turnovers. Guys after winning a free there but just running into traffic.
We saw it with Coola last night as well. They had an awful lot of chances that they didn't take, and it's the same with Ballinteer here today. And I would argue with Ballinteer, they've such a young squad, and Coola in a large part as well, that they can take lessons and use the learnings, to use that rugby phrase or phrase associated with rugby. For Ballinteer St John's, I think getting to the quarter-final in itself represents progress.
Yeah, absolutely, but they've won it back here, which is great, but even that incident there, just where they lost the ball, 5 Ballyboden players around a Ballinteer guy and he's unable to shake it. It's that the solo runs are great, but at the end result of the solo run is run yourself into trouble. Well, then you need to get back out of that trouble and not cause yourself an issue by getting swamped. And that's what Ballinteer probably need to look at this game and say, how many times did we bring the ball into contact, many times did we lose it into contact? And certainly Bowden are very experienced, very strong team, and there's learnings themselves in playing against the likes of Ballyboden. Some guys here for Ballinteer, it's first time obviously at this stage, so it's can you do a learn or take a learning from it and bring it into maybe next year's championship.
22 points to 12, 10 points the gap. It would take a miracle for Ballinteer to close it now. Flaherty, O'Mahony, Pasquale breaks it but to a tangerine and black jersey. Ben Millist, Nicky Devereux, Diarmuid Kennedy, Davy Devereux, Kennedy, who cleverly played blocker there for a second. Millist tried to pick a pass, it falls kindly for Clayton. I think it was Flaherty who got his hand on and took the sting out of that pass. Ross McGarry, Pasquale spills it. Almost got it back under control. Millist steals it away. There was a push and it's a free out for Ballinteer. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Any game that we've got live will pop up automatically. You won't have to go looking for it. Also, things like draws will pop up automatically. We've got a draw to come after the second game today. We've got the Go Ahead Dublin Senior 1 and Senior 2 semi-final draw. That might break kindly. Duffy doesn't give up, gets his goal.
Well, the fortuitous in that it's just a long ball in around the goal, but credit to Duffy, he was very brave to go into the middle of that mix. Managed to get a flick on it when it landed down again. Probably a penalty call because it looked like it was touched on the ground. Referee left to play. Moved the ball well here. Again, they're out of traffic, so it gives you an opportunity to deliver a pass. Duffy does brilliant, goes in bullheaded here, sticks to the task. Ball drops, Clayton dives down on it. Ball spins out, Duffy sticks it into the net. You know, it's certainly too little too late, but I asked or said about them sticking to the task. They tried something different, they got a break off, they managed to get a goal. And hopefully it's not a serious injury. I think it's Owen Behan that's maybe on the ground there.
Well, Ballyboden, it's still looking good for them, but they are not pleased to have conceded that. You can hear one or two shouts out on the field. Like any champion team, when they're on top, they want to stay on top. They want to drive on.
Yeah, look, it's great for Ballinteer that they got, managed to get the ball into the net second half here. Again, you're saying about learning, so how can they improve their forward play so that you're not relying on, and there's nothing wrong with firing the ball in every so often and hope that you get a break, but they just haven't managed to create those angles of running that have caused Ballyboden problems. And any time they have got anywhere close to the 21 metre line or 25 metres out from goal, they've been met with a solid wall in terms of the strength of that Ballyboden defensive unit. So look, it's not all doom and gloom from a Ballinteer perspective. You've rightly said they came out of the group, which was a great achievement itself. There's a good group of young guys here who were in a minor A championship championship final against Ballyboden a couple of years ago, which they lost, unfortunately, for a Ballinteer perspective. So there is improvements coming in terms of the playing ability and what's starting to come through within the club. So it's how do you build on this today rather than looking at it as an opportunity lost or taking a step back.
Gogan. If there's one thing Ballyboden don't want to do here, it's get lax and concede another goal. Lundy. Nicky Devereux. He's fouled. Devereux's thinking goal here as he pops it into Clabby. Clabby knocks it off to Joe Sweeney. Comes to David Devereux. Devereux! It's a second goal, and maybe, just maybe, the miracle comeback is on. 4 points between them.
Well, they've thrown off the shackles a little bit, Ballinteer. Ballyboden have definitely taken a step back. You heard a few shouts about teams. Stop messing around with the ball, I think was the shout that went out. Credit
That's
to
the
Dave.
PG-13 watered down version that you've just given there.
Credit to Davy Devereux. Spotted the gap, put the head down and tucked it into the corner. Really great response from Ballinteer in terms of the 2 goals. Ballyboden will certainly be disappointed with how they've shown up in the last 5 or 7 minutes, but Ballinteer gives them an opportunity maybe to get at Ballyboden once again.
2 goals for Ballinteer in quick succession. You just saw the second one there, the one that really reignites the challenge. Although Ballyboden have a free in here, there'll be a no rush to take it. They just want to take the sting out of this game.
Yeah, from a 10-point game down to 4 in the blink of an eye.
Ballinteer have won it back. The momentum has gone their way. Paddy Connaughton moves it off. Joe Sweeney. Lundy turning and twisting. They look like they have a bit of something about them, don't they, Ballinteer?
Yeah, well, a goal gives you great lift, great legs as well. So now there's an opportunity. Can they go at them again? Great hit, brilliant shoulder to send them out over the line there.
Devereux just ran out of pitch. Very clever play by Ballyboden.
Yeah, that's a great hit to send them out over the sideline from Brian Bobbitt, a guy who's been around as well, knows how to secure possession. Thrown away though by Ross McGarry.
And here's Ben Millis. Down the line from Fenton. McIver turning and twisting. He's thinking goal. Has an option in Lundy. And now it's a 3-point game. And I didn't think I'd have to remind you of this at half time or even midway through the second half. But extra time and penalties if required. required. This one has to end on the day.
Yeah, fair play to Ballinteer. I thought that the legs had gone out of their challenge, but they got that fist of goal from Fergal Duffy that gave them a bit of impetus. They've suddenly got a second one on the back of that, and all of a sudden there's a little bit of hope back in the legs. And it's Ballyboden who are looking for possession, struggling under kick out.
I think Ballinteer got away with a foul there. They'll take the bit of luck, they'll drive on. David Murray. This is fantastic from the neutral point of view. I'm not sure what it's like if you're in either camp. Of course, right now, Coleman, you're neutral.
Always have a neutral hat on here. Go on, Nicky. I'm only joking.
Devereux up against Michael Dara McCauley, who fouls him, and it's a free in.
Yeah, he probably caught him high around the neck. Probably nothing more than a yellow card. Does give Ballinteer an opportunity because I think the referee is going to move it in. But you can absolutely hear the frustration in Ballyboden's voice. They're 10 points up. There's 5 minutes left on the clock in terms of normal time. And all of a sudden Ballinteer have hit 2-1. Opportunity for Lundy to narrow the gap to 2. And that's a squeaky lead to have going into injury time. Ballinteer managed to create a goal scoring opportunity.
Lundy takes a card before he takes the free. And they actually have...
I think the card was flashed at Michael Dara McCauley rather than Lundy, but
yeah.
I'll stand corrected.
It might still work out. McIver! Somehow it doesn't go in. Devereux! That's out for a 45, surely.
Yeah, it's a 45. I think Ballinteer were half hoping that there might have been a foot block involved there. Umpire's now waving it wide.
Well, we'll get a look at that in a second. Obviously, we don't want to miss anything live, so... Let's have a look
Lundy's
here.
free. I had backed him to stick it over the bar. He dropped it short, but again, it's Duffy who reacts quickest. Cuts inside. Brilliant block on the line. It's Devereux coming across. I'm not quite sure how it was waved wide, to be honest, when you see what happened in terms of the clearance. But it might just give Ballyboden the possession that allows them to move on and win this championship tie.
Well, Duffy got there. Unfortunately for him, couldn't stick it in. Driving on is Alex Gavin. Gavin pops it off. Ross McGarry. 3 between them. A point here surely would win it. It is Conall Keeney, a man you'd want on the ball from the Ballyboden point of view, and that is why.
Well, we've seen him swing the boot like that before here in Parnell Park, and you know he's such a talented, committed player, has been over the last 10-15 years for both Ballyboden and Dublin in both codes. But it's potentially a big score. I had it down to a 2-point game with Jack Lundy's free. Suddenly it's out to 4. You know, that's a much safer position for Ballyboden to be in. But still, is there legs in the Ballinteer challenge?
Keeney, back where he's needed again. O'Mahony shovels it out to Paddy Dunleavy. Michael Dara McCauley. Dunleavy has a runner in flood. Ross McGarry. That hangs up in the breeze. Liam Smith. They have a long way to go, Ballinteer St John's. They need 2 scores. John Brian Carthy, he was being closed down there by Flood, just didn't quite catch it right.
Yeah, Cubby sold a little bit short with the pass back to him. Didn't want to take a chance in terms of collecting the ball. Flood is so powerful in it, both his running and obviously his tackling. But what an opportunity, maybe Ballinteer, those 2 quick goals could have narrowed the gap to 2. You put pressure on a Ballyboden kick out. Now as we tick into injury time, we're ensconced in Ballinteer's half. And
Keeney's going for this one.
I think he's got it.
Wonderful from Conall Keeney. 2 points from play. Probably the points that make sure of it for Ballyboden.
Yeah, that's a massive score. He's inside the 21 metre line there, swings it over the bar. I mentioned Breeze obviously is helping him or assisting him with that. You know, Ballinteer can be very proud with the effort they've put in second half. You know, the fact they travelled a good period with only a couple of scores. They scored early in the second half. Then it took them another 15 minutes to register a score. So they've just struggled to get those scores up front. The 2 goals gave them a lifeline that we didn't expect for sure.
Murray looking for Clabby. It does fall Clabby's way. His route to goal is blocked. Gave it off to Smith. Smith! Just too many bodies back there. It's a 45, but it's not really much use to Ballinteer.
Yeah, well, if anything, Ballinteer have demonstrated that, you know, that long ball in causes Ballyboden a bit of problems. If you can get a ball away into space, there's opportunity to get goals. You have to take into account that on the 55-minute mark, they were 3-13 to 1-9 to the good. Probably had slipped back into feeling that they were moving into semi-finals without really finishing out the game. But credit to Ballinteer, they stuck to their guns, managed to work a couple of scores.
Michael Dara Macaulay, who else in a basketball parlance, collecting it under the rim. And that's it. Ballinteer St John's gave this one hell of an effort, but it's Ballyboden St Endas who march on to the semi-final. They were 10 points up at one stage. Ballinteer got very close to them, but Ballyboden, in fairness, through Conall Keeney, pushed themselves out in front again, gave themselves a gap and won it by 5 in the end. 3-15 to 3-10 the final score.
Yeah, look, disappointing from a Ballinteer perspective, but certainly the better team that won the game. Much more clinical up front with the chances they created. Physically, in terms of senior championship, when you watch the likes of Ballyboden, Kilmacud, Nafina, Thomas Davis, who we'll see later on, they have this physicality to them, and they're teams that have been in county finals. Castleknock similarly. That's just a level above potentially where Ballinteer are at right now. Credit to them, they scored 2-1 in a 3-minute spell there that gave them a huge opportunity to cause an upset. A half a chance then at a goal when Jack Lundy's free fell short, but in fairness the bench was emptied with Macaulay, a big catch at the end. Declan O'Mahony had an impact, and of course Conall Keeney with his 2 scores at the death there, which pushed it out to 5 points. So disappointment for Ballinteer, but certainly from a Ballyboden perspective they'll be happy to move forward and realise that they probably survived a little bit of a scare in those last couple of minutes.
Let's have a look at the highlights of a roller coaster second half.
Yeah, again, early doors for Ballinteer. They managed to get the first score, and it was a cornerback who lipped it over the bar for them, Liam Smith. But from there really was Ballyboden who dominated. Kick, a one-handed take there in the middle of the field was brilliant. Great movement on the ball. Pop it inside. Very strong in possession, but again, look at this direct run, and he's man-on-man on Fitzpatrick. You check out your battle. Do you have the ability to get by your man? I do. Do I have the ability to finish? I do too. And then a big turnover, lucky again for Fitzpatrick, probably carrying a knock at that stage. Great hands here to pass the ball on, and the way he cuts across, protecting the space before he finishes it into the net. Darren O'Reilly, that left it at 3-9 to 1-7. Ballinteer did manage to get a response. Point through Lundy, 35 metres out. Just turns and sails it over the bar. It was a great score, but it was a limited response. But Bowden just that little bit better. I mentioned Colin Basquel, probably the first time he touched the ball second half, sailed it over the bar. 3-10 to 1-8. There was a goal chance came after that. Probably a chance to pass it out to Keeney. Disappointed inside. They did manage to work a score. John Brian Carthy, 2 good saves today. In fairness, from a goalkeeping perspective, kickouts maybe need a little bit of work, but that's only as strong as maybe what's happening out the field. An absolute boomer of a score there, and you're thinking at this stage it's 47 minutes on the clock that Ballinteer are in trouble, that they can't really engineer a score. Really great defensive work all the time that's causing problems. Really strong run from Brannock, who's unfortunate to go off after that, and Lundy taps it over. So at that point it's a 9-point game, and it pushes out to 10 on the 51st minute mark. Great work here, O'Dwyer. Give, go, left foot over the bar. Really great score. And at that point, there's 10 minutes left to play. Ballyboden are home and hose. You're thinking 10 points to good. Ballinteer decided to fire a ball in. Really brave from Duffy. Hat tip to his bravery going in around the goal. Shane Clayton did his best to ground the ball from a rugby perspective. And all of a sudden, there's a little bit of legs in Ballinteer. There was a little bit of delay to the injury that followed. But once it went in, great move here. And when it opens up for Davy Dever, who's in a little bit of space, no second guess, sticks it low into the corner, and suddenly it's 3-9 to 3-13. Ballinteer win the next ball. They move forward with it. Lundy manages to get on the ball, and great work Duffy, who was very strong all throughout the day, weaving to try and create something. Lundy comes across, gets on the ball, pops it over, and it's a 3-point game. Ballinteer then get a free that drops short. You're thinking if that goes over the bar, there's every chance that you've...
And there was a potential foot block in there as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think the way he came across, they were both pulling on the ball. That I'm not sure there was a massive call, and I could understand maybe why Ballinteer were disappointed with it. But it wasn't to be, I suppose, in terms of the decision that's made here. So this is the free that Michael Dara Macaulay was booked, and then the referee brought it forward. So here's the half chance. I suppose it's Duffy again who reacts. So I'm expecting Lundy to knock this over. Makes it a 2-point game. Drops short. Duffy wins it. Cuts inside. Not quite sure who gets the block on it. And then he does come across. The foot is raised, but they're both pulling on the ball. They're probably doing the same thing.
Yep.
What do Ballyboden do? They find one of the most experienced guys in senior football in Dublin, Conall Keeney, to knock one over from play, and then he just wraps it up with this wonderful sideline that make sure Ballyboden are in the hat for later on when the draw is live here with us on Dubs TV.
And don't forget, that will pop up automatically for you if you subscribe to the Dublin GA Dubs TV channel on YouTube. You can follow us on all the usual social media channels as well. Clabby did well when he came on, won some ball. Smith had a go, but there was just way too many Ballyboden bodies back there, and that was that. So Ballinteer St John's got back to the quarterfinals and gave it a really good effort, but Ballyboden's class told in the end, 315 to 310 the final score. You can watch that back in full on the Dubs TV channel on YouTube. You can watch back yesterday's quarterfinals, by the way, on the RTE player, but you need to do it quick because those go off after about 5 or 6 days, maybe a week. Kilmacud Crokes, Nafina and Ballyboden St Endas are in the Senior 1 semi-finals. Who is going to join them? Will it be Thomas Davis or Castleknock? Remember, it has to finish today. We have to have a winner on the day, so extra time and penalties if required. After this game, we'll have another separate broadcast for the draw for Senior 1 and Senior 2. Senior 2, so big this year because of the amount of relatively recent winners in the Senior 1 Championship that are in it. And remember, the two teams that get to the final go up in that. So that's all to come here today on a nice sunny day in Parnell Park. For now, Coleman Goggins, I'm going to allow you to take a break. You can go off and maybe get me a cup of tea if you like. It is all over in the first game.
Know your role.
Ballyboden 315, Ballinteer St John's 310. We'll be back with Thomas Davis and Castleknock shortly. Stay with us for that.